Hello everyone, this is Jasmina and this is a pretty important video. Is it good to change the period of your house? This is a very appropriate thing to ask right now because at the present time, 2023, you can change the period of your house to a period 8 house if it's not already a period 8 house. And next year you can change it to a period 9 house. So you have a lot of options and you have a lot to look at. If you have an activated special formation in your Flying Star chart already, it is almost certainly best not to change the period of your house. That's because all your stars are timely and you're good basically forever. Now, if you have an activated special formation, your house is already period compliant for all periods. It doesn't matter. It'll be period compliant for 9, 1, 2, 3. It'll be permanently compliant. Now, if you don't have an activated special formation, you should check your period compliance of your current house. And I do have a video about that, and other people talk about this too. You know, it's good to get as much information as you can. Now, if you are already thinking about expanding your house, you do have to analyze the possible new charts. If you expand it by more than 1/3, you're going to change the period of your house, unless you do that in the period in which the house was built. But even if you don't expand it by more than 1/3, you oftentimes will have the center of the house shift, and that can change the location of things within your house. Sometimes this is good, sometimes it's not good. So you'd still have to evaluate everything. Sometimes the existing period house is better, and sometimes it's better to update. And this is what I'm going to primarily talk about here. Now, this really only applies to houses because apartments and condos, it's almost impossible to change their period. It could happen, but basically everybody has to be out of the apartment for 100 consecutive days. Nobody living there at all. And that is rather hard to do. So the decision of which period to use, your original period, period 8 or period 9, all boils down to which charts are better. The Flying Star chart, because we're talking about houses here, tends to be the most important one. First off, because it has many possibilities for special formations. As long as you have a definitive facing direction for your house, that is, your house isn't between two different facing directions, then you have at least one special chart to work with. One special formation that your house can have. It still has to be activated, often by the landforms, but it has the possibility. Now, you're unlikely to be able to change the address of your house, but sometimes you can change the location of your main door, and that can give you a permanent special formation in your purple-white chart. If you can do both, have a special formation here that's activated and a special formation here, you're really good. And you don't, with this, the presence of that special chart will activate your purple-white. It isn't quite the same as the Flying Stars. The Flying Stars need activation just being there, since the purple-white chart changes every year, that it is based on timing. Now, your Chiman chart will also change if you change the period of your house. So that should also be investigated. And so you have to take quite a few steps in evaluating the changes. Here I'm going to focus on the Flying Star chart in this video. If you watch this video of mine, it will give you a chart to tell you what potential your particular house has It's organized in terms of facing direction of the house. And this will give you all the different periods, what potential your house has. And so you can use this beyond this year and beyond next year, all the periods that exist. So I've just chosen the northeast 2 or 3 facing house because it's interesting. Every of the periods have a potential for a special formation. This, just by looking here, we have a 4 and a 1 and a 1 and a 4 in these spots. A 1 and a 4 in a home office is fantastic. So this has 2 options. This has 1. If you have a couple and they both work from home, this might actually be the better option. This is the only really good one, but this one is also okay because you have the star 4 here. Now, this would be assuming that you have activated a special formation. But it could still work even if it's not activated. Now you notice period 9 doesn't have any combo. It does have this star 4 here. That probably is your best home office. Now the potential special formations are a diagonal form of the 7-star robbery where your facing has the double stars. And this is the same thing for period 9 and period 7. They have the same potential. Period 8 has a parent string potential. And parent string is a pretty good chart. This might be slightly stronger, but it's also much harder to activate. And again, these are only potential formations. They all require specific landforms in specific locations to activate it. So that is something you also have to look into. Unfortunately, the 7-star robbery, whether it's the diagonal form or not, has some strict structural requirements and time requirements. And the time requirements really make a big difference. At present, that is in 2023, neither the current period 7 chart can be activated for the 7-star robbery, nor can the period 9 chart because your house has a period 7 chart. You have to wait till period 9 comes, then you have potential. So next year, you can change your house to a period 9 house and then activate the formation. And you can activate it at any point up to basically 2043. But of course, if this is activatable, you should do it as soon as possible because that will improve your house. Because no matter what, you will not be able to do a period 7 house because of the time requirements. For the 7-star robbery, you need a mountain, which in Chinese also, it's just one word for mountain, hill, or higher ground. So when it says mountain with a capital letter, it means also hills or higher ground. And you need water. Now we're talking about a lake or a pond, not a river. And these have to be in the northeast sector as measured from the center of your house. And you also need exterior doors in these 3 locations, and it is the center door that's the real problem, or at least the one that causes the most difficulty. And you don't want any 2 doors lined up with each other. That's generally true no matter what. You also need uninterrupted paths to the center of the house from each exterior door. Now the center door is already there. That's pretty easy. But the other 2, you also have to have open to the center. Now the parent string house actually is pretty interesting. You need 2 mountains though. You need one in the front, the northeast, and one in the back in the southwest. But you must change it this year, or you have to wait until 2064 when it becomes the ability to change it to a period 2 house, which also has a potential parent string. But this is a long time from now, and you'll be probably retired if you're listening to this now. when we reach 2064, that is. Now, you can also watch my video activating the special formations to understand how to activate other special formations you might have, because you may find that you have different potential. And the easiest way to change the period of your house is to be out of your house for 100 consecutive days. And then you move back in, and it's in the period that you want your house to become. So if you have a house that's not a period 8 house already, this means that the very latest date you could possibly move out is October 25th, before you reach midnight, before it changes to the 26th. And you must then move back in on February 3rd, which is the very last day of period 8. That's the very latest you can do it. But you can always move these dates earlier. In fact, the earlier the better, because if something goes wrong and you have to get back in the house for some reason, you have the potential to have potential to redo your 100 days again. So earlier the better. And also, if it turns out that your period 8 house is better, then you activate it earlier. So my recommendation is do it as early as you can. And actually, if you don't have a other place to stay, I would say renting an apartment or a house for 4 months gives you 120 days, so you have a few days to move in and a few days to move out without infringing on that 100 days. Because it's pretty hard to really move in and out of a house in a single day. Now, another way of doing this is to remove all your current roofing down to the trusses. So there's flat boards on top of your trusses. That's what you're placing your shingles in it, or whatever your roof material is on. That all has to go, so that other than the trusses, you see the sky throughout the entire roof of your house, the living area of your house. That will change the period of your house. This does not work for an apartment or condo, though, because in a house, your staircase almost never has doors on each level. That is, a door at the top of the stairs, a door at the bottom of the stairs. If it does, open up those doors when they're replacing the roof, because then that allows the chi to change in the entire building. That's the problem with apartments or condos. Each floor, because of fire requirements, those stairs usually have doors on every floor. So the top floor may actually have, by replacing the roof, you may actually have that one change, but that would be the only one that would change. And since it's really the whole building that does the Flying Star chart, it doesn't change anything. So this is why this doesn't work for an apartment or a condo. Now, if you already have an activated special formation, and this is key, and you need your roof totally replaced, make sure that the roofers do not remove all the decking material at the same time. Put this in your contract and be there to make sure that they do it properly. They can remove a half or a third of everything down to the trusses on that portion, then put new decking on, then move to the next location. That's fine. That will not change your period, but you have to really make sure they do this. Otherwise, you can change the period of your house and destroy your special formation. So you have to be really careful with this. Now, if you expand or subtract 1/3 of the area of your house, you will also change the period of your house, assuming that this is not the period in which the house was built. So, but these are all 3 ways you can change the period of your house. Now, it is said that being out of the house the 100 days changes the man energy. Replacing your roof changes the heaven energy, and adding or subtracting that 1/3 changes your earth energy. There are masters who say you must do all three to truly change the period of your house. But from personal experience, for me, this works. And we could feel the change in the house after we moved back after being out of the country and working out of the country for a year and a half. And the house was completely empty of anybody living there for 7 months. And then we had a relative move in during that time, between the 7 months and the time we came back. And then he stayed also later afterwards. Now this is for a Northeast, this is the house. Just want to remind you what we had, what potential we had. So we go back to actually looking at an example. Now the current period 7 house, you cannot activate the 7-star robbery because of timing. And you cannot activate it again until period 5 starts, which is over 100 years from now. So it's irrelevant. But if it was activated in period 7, I wouldn't change it unless somehow you deactivated the formation. And my video should explain the one how you activate it, should explain this, how you can deactivate it. And in general, this is deactivated by several methods. Now, in this particular case, the example I'm given, what I would recommend would totally depend on the presence or absence of the required landforms. If you have mountains in the front and the back sectors, I would say that the period 8 house is better. And for several reasons. It's much easier to accomplish. You don't have to worry about where your main door is located. And you don't have to make any changes to the interior of your house. Or exterior. I mean, this is much easier, but you must have those 2 mountains. A period 9 house is perhaps slightly stronger, but it has so many internal and external requirements, and it has some landform requirements, but the mountain, which has to come from nature in either case. This one only requires 1 mountain rather than 2. So you might have to use this one. It depends on what you have. Now, if you have no mountains, no higher ground anywhere, then, or at least you don't have any higher ground in front or in back, then you really can't activate any of these special formations. And that is a different question, and I will address it near the end of this video. Now here I'm going to assume that you have not activated the 7-star robbery back in period 7. Actually, if you have, you're probably having such good luck, you may think, I don't need feng shui, everything's fine. That's fine. As long as you don't somehow deactivate it, you're good. But if it hasn't been activated and you can activate these new ones, then changing the period of house should improve your luck. But it has to be activatable. So you have to have the mountains in the right place. Now, Shachi should be addressed regardless of your period changes, or whether you do or you don't, or even if you have the right stars or the right landforms. Always you need to do this. The best way to deal with Shachi, if you can, is to block it with a living tree that's evergreen. If you can't see the Shachi, it cannot affect you. And we're talking about seeing it through a window or door of your house. For most special formations, you need to measure the directions of any mountains and water from the center of your house. This can most easily be done by satellite images if the landform is close enough that you don't lose the actual place of your, that is, you can still see your house in the video. Many mountains, especially if they're thousands of feet higher than your house, where your house sits, they usually will either be far away relatively speaking. As long as you can see them, you get the energy. But if you zoom out enough to see them, a lot of times you can no longer see your house. Now with Google Maps, you have that little red dot, but sometimes that if you have a big lot, that dot is only roughly where the house is. It's still usually okay though. So as long as you can pinpoint your house, you should be fine. And you can use this. And what you need to do, of course, is you need to know the shape of those mountains. And what you want to do is you want to point, when you're looking at the direction, you point it to the peak of that particular mountain. Now, if you have a mountain range that covers a good portion, you know you're covered and you don't have to worry about it. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you just have a single little mountain sitting all by itself. Now, it can also be done by a compass, and this is actually a bit easier in some respects, but it will be less accurate unless you're able to actually do the measurement from the center of your house. And this would be if you could see that mountain through a window or a door. You still have to take into account the problem with a compass, but it's not that hard to do. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning here, and I'm going to assume you'll have an architectural plan. And pretty much you need one. You need to either have one by the city or county or your municipality that deals with this, or you have to create your own chart, because there are important things here that you need to know. Now, I do have a step-by-step outline of how to use the architectural drawings for feng shui. And I'm assuming here that if this is your architectural drawing and I've simplified it to the bare minimum, you need to know that this is UTM North, not True North. And we're looking for True North. But this is often good enough. If the difference between UTM North and True North is less than 1 degree, you're usually okay to use UTM North, unless some important feature lies basically across a sector or subsector dividing line. And I do have a calculator on my website, which is my website that has this label that will tell you how to, or what your correction is, how big your correction is. And it's on my calculator tab. And you do need to find the latitude and your longitude of your house, but that's pretty easy to do by just Googling it. Now, mountains and water need to be identified down to the 45-degree sector. So that's not too hard. And this is one reason why you could do it either with a compass or with a satellite. And the satellite is a bit more accurate, of course. Your main door and your range have to be identified down to the 15-degree sector. So it has to be a little more precise. But this you can get from your floor plan. So the first thing you need to do is, either assuming you've figured out if you have to change this to True North, or if it's good enough to leave the UTM North, there is a way to transfer this direction to the center of your house pretty easily. And there's a step-by-step explanation how to do this in using architectural drawings for feng shui, one of my videos. And you need to mark this out. Now, I do have a free template that's PDF. You print it out on a transparency and you can overlay your floor plan. You have to find the center of your house, and that's all described here. But I'm just going to show you the big ones. I'm simplifying everything down to exactly what you need by step. And you want to, in pencil, just write a small little N, northeast here, east here, so that you know once we go to the 9-sector grid, which sectors are which, because otherwise this can get quite confusing. And half the reason is, of course, south is up on the on the Flying Star charts, and more or less on most of your drawings, north will be up. It's not always true, but it's often true. But you'll know where north is. So you mark on your sectors after you've divided into 3 equal ones, which sectors those are. That makes it a lot easier to take the north numbers and stick them in the right section. It's very easy to mess this up if you don't mark your sectors. Now I've indicated the facing direction of this house. It's in the northeast direction. So once you get to this is good. So this is the chart if we change this to a period 8 house. And what I have done here is I've indicated what stars are being supported. Now I have a separate video that discusses how you figure out which star is supported. And if you don't understand how to do that, it's worth watching, and it's in this playlist, and it's something entitled like which star is supported, something like that. And if we are talking about certain rooms, some rooms are better in some places than others. So the owner's bedroom and the kitchen ideally have the sitting star supported. Now that includes this room here in the north and the one in the southeast, as well as all of these here in the center, from the front and the back of the house. And you can put, if you have an activated special formation, and only if you do, then these would be good locations. If you do not have this parent string activated by having a mountain here and here, then there's only 2 rooms you can use for the bedroom and the kitchen. For the main door and the home office, ideally you want the facing star supported. So that's these here, and also all the center too, but all the center here really is only good if the parent string is activated. Because if they're not, they're quite negative. If you put your, since this is a facing direction, your main door is probably somewhere in the front here. If you put it where the 5 is and you do not have the activated special formation, that leads to lots and lots of problems. And this would be a better location for that, for a main door, if you do not have an activated parent string. But that also means that all this center stuff is not terribly good. And so these are rooms that, are difficult to put to good use. But if you do have the parent string activated, then this entire house becomes really good. And of course, if you can activate this formation, that's basically if you have a mountain in the front and the mountain in the back, as soon as you change this house to a period 8 house, it automatically activates it. Will automatically activate the parent string, and then you'll be good to go. And that's why I say as soon as you can do this, be out of the house 100 days, and you have the mountain in front and the back, then it's really good. So if you can activate your period 8 house, if you have a mountain in the front and in the back, then I would go with the period 8 house. It's a very good house, but you really must be able to activate this parent string. Otherwise, this is not a great house. It's actually pretty poor. So if you were to look, okay, do you have the right landforms? If you're doing it by satellite, and of course most of the time your house would be very, very tiny. This isn't to scale. This is just to give you the idea. The UTM North will be straight up in your satellite view. And if there's very little difference between these two, between the True North and the UTM North, you don't have to worry about it. Less than 1 degree, you should be fine. And there you just then line up your chart that you can get from me that has these big sectors, and then you just look to see whether or not you have a mountain. The peak is the best. If you have the peak within here, or the whole mountain is even better, you get the full energy. If, let's say, this was over, so you had like half or less than half the mountain, you still get the energy. It's just not as strong, and it's still activated. It's just not quite as strongly activated. But as long as you can see a mountain anywhere here and a mountain anywhere here, you're good. And it's very easy to do by satellite, as long as you can pinpoint your house. Now, you can also use a compass, but a compass is not terribly likely to have the right reading. But I will show you how you can use it. Let's say, now remember the plans say this was 50 degrees. So if you stand just outside the house, and preferably more or less in line with the center of your house. I'm a little off here, but close is good enough. And you basically, if you're roughly 2 meters from the outside of your house, you reduce the amount of electromagnetic interference that comes from all the electrical devices in your house. And you want to do this during the day, so you make sure as many things are turned off as possible. When you stand here with your back parallel to the front wall and your eyes perpendicular, you look at what the reading is. Now, if you have a cell phone that has this, it's super easy. You just point it in that direction and it will tell you the reading. Now, if it doesn't read 50 degrees, that means there's a discrepancy between the compass north and true north, and this is totally normal. Just note the size, the difference between what you know is true and what your compass says, and which direction it is. That is it too high or too low? And you want to you can rotate your whole body, but you don't want to take a step. You want to then rotate it so that you're pointing at the peak of the mountain. And again, you take another reading. So here's a real hardcore example. Let's say you're standing there, it reads 55 degrees. Now you know the plan says 50, so you know there's an error of 5 degrees. And where we live, it's almost 10 degrees. So this is not weird at all. But you know you need to subtract 5 degrees from any reading to get the true reading. So let's say you have a mountain kind of down here. I mean, if you just look at this, you go, that may or may not be. It looks like it is, but let's be sure. So you rotate your body and point to the peak, and let's say it's a nice Greedy Wolf Mountain, looks like a cone right in the middle, and it reads 69 degrees. Now 69 is out of the northeast window, but remember we still have to subtract the 5 degrees, so its true reading is 64, which is in this window. So you're good. To be super accurate, you would have to be in the center of your house. And if you can do that, you can do the same thing here. Hopefully you have as many things turned off so that your reading doesn't bounce around, because it might. That is, if you just hold your cell phone steady, you may actually see the reading fluctuate. That isn't unusual, especially if you're in an apartment, because everybody's using electricity in other parts of the house can affect you too. And fortunately, Chi is energy and it's not affected by magnetic fields. If you can stand in the middle of the house and see it, you can do this same type of thing. But I would not get on the roof to do it unless you're already a roofer and very comfortable. Getting on a roof is easy. Getting off the roof, that's the hard part. As it's if you have any fear of heights, getting off the roof is 10 times scarier than getting on. Now you must have at least some part of the mountain be in that sector. Now also, since we're looking at the period 8 house, you must also do the same thing here in the southwest sector. And here you're going to compare your reading, and of course you'll be on the outside of the house over here. You want to compare your reading to 230, which is the 50 plus 180. And you do the same thing. It's not hard. And if the mountain isn't extraordinarily close, you can see mountains from miles. So if it's more than a mile away, this should be good enough, unless you're like right at the edge. But if it's only a mile away, you can do this with a satellite, and it's at least as accurate, if not more accurate. Now, if you have both mountains, your parent string will automatically activate once you change the house to period 8. And do it as soon as possible, because your good luck will start faster. So I'm hoping that if this is your house, you actually do have mountains on both sides, because this can become a very good period 8 house. But you only have this year to do it. You'll have to do it this year. Now this is for a period 9 house. I've already done all the marking of what is been, which star is being supported. Now this is a potential diagonal 7-star robbery. And you must have the exterior doors in these 3 locations without the doors lining up, and you have to have a path to the center. There's a lot of things you need. If your house already looks like this, it's relatively rectangular, you actually have to remove part of your house to get that door that goes to the center of your house. And so this is going to require a lot of work. You might actually have a situation where you don't have to even do it. You already have a sector that allows you to have a door to the center of your house automatically. That's really easy then. But I think it's relatively rare too. So you could have a house that looks like this. Now you could have a missing sector in any one of the 4 corners. That's to give you this door that is in the center of your house. The entry is in the center of your house. Or you could have it here on the side, but you still have to have 1/3 missing. If your wall is here, it doesn't count. It has to be where this opens to here. Now you cannot have any walls here unless you could have a partial wall. There has to be openings, and you cannot have a door there, because if you have a door and it ever gets closed, you destroy the 7-star robbery. And if you do it outside the period of period 9, after you've changed your house to a period 9 house, of course, then you destroy it until basically period 7, which is 140 years from now. So you can't have a door, because if anybody closes that door anytime in the future, you've destroyed it. So if you had a door there, take it off the hinges, remove the door, make sure nobody puts a new door on it later. And you can have walls any place else in the house, interior walls, but here this has to be open. And for other houses, other periods, or other directions, you don't have this through the center. It will depend on the particular house. The diagonal the diagonal form of the 7-star robbery has this through the center of the house. So you have to be careful about the doors. You don't want another door over here, because then that's a straight shot through and the energy doesn't really stay. This is okay, even though you say, well, is this lined up with this? Not really, because this door, if this door is closed, it's going to see a bit of this wall and this wall. If this door is open, it sees this wall. Or if you have a wall here, you could see this wall too. And this door will see this wall. That is fine. And it's okay even if this door is open. It's going to see the door. It's not going to see outside directly. And that's what you have to avoid. this also works, and any one of these can work. Now, I've shown it in the back of the house because could be a patio. You could have it in the front, and in fact, not having these two sectors is maybe a little better, but these are all still good stars because you've activated the diagonal form of the 7-star robbery. We're assuming that. Now, if you cannot activate it, don't worry about this. You don't have to do anything. You can leave your house the way it is. Now, what you'll need in terms of landforms is a mountain and water in your northeast sector. The water has to be closer to your house than the mountain. So if you had a mountain and you could see a lake that is behind it, that doesn't count. You can put a pond though. Water can be placed. Placing it in the northeast sector is, let me see, is it good? Probably not. No, this period it's not good except or it's okay if you're activating the 7-star robbery. I would not put a pond here unless you're activating the 7-star robbery, because otherwise it's negative. And so that would mean you would have to do the modification to the house first, if this is what your house originally looked like. So this is a lot of work. This is why if you have a mountain on both sides, activate the apparent string. It's basically as good, and it's so much easier to activate. Now in this case, you also must have your main door in the northeast sector. It has to be where your double stars are. That's another requirement. This is all discussed in the Activating the Formations video. Now, only the diagonal form of the 7-star robbery house needs to have an exterior door in the center. And that's the one that typically is the most painful door to get. The normal 7-star robbery house still needs 3 exterior doors, but they're on the outside sectors. So it's either going to be you could have a 7-star robbery with east, south, and northwest, and you would have to have the doors located there. The other option is west, north, and southeast, and you don't really have the option. Your house facing will tell you which one you need, but this will put doors in, let's say, normal sectors, and the door can be anywhere in the sector, and you really can use the pie chart for that. And it can face any direction. It's not the facing that matters, it's the sector that matters. And again, the south could be anywhere, northwest anywhere for that set. And then you've got the west, the north, and the southeast for the other set. So those are easier houses to actually activate because you just have to open up a new door. You don't have to create this thing where you have to get a door in the center. I mean, that I think is not very common, and it's a real pain to do. Now, when you look at the Cheeman chart, so I've done a shortcut here. If you change your house to a period 9 7-star robbery activated house, your door must be in northeast 2 or northeast 3. If it's there, you have a Cheeman door of open, which is fantastic for a Cheeman door. If your door is in northeast 1, you have the death door, and that's not good. So now for a period 8 house, your main door can basically be anywhere. These are the ones you want to avoid. Now, largely, you could theoretically have it in East 3. It's off to the side of the house, but it could still be in the front of the house. And Southeast 1 would also be, let's say it's in the front half of your house. But this would be on the side of your house for sure. And so these aren't really common. Of course, these are in the back of your house. There are times when this will actually happen. And I do discuss this a bit in some other videos, but this would be relatively rare. And you could just put it in any other of these sectors and you're fine. That's the nice thing about the Period 8 house. You don't have to worry about your main door sector. Now, if you leave your house as an inactivated 7-star robbery house, you also are allowed many more formations, but the house doesn't have a good flying star chart. It just is an average chart. But you do want to avoid these. So again, you're going to be avoiding Northeast 1 and all of North. So the reason why I say this, if you have it there, your main door, in all these cases that you want to avoid, it's because it would be the death door. And that's the one you want to avoid as a door, a Cheeman door in your house. So basically, all Cheeman doors are acceptable except the death door. The death door actually does have a purpose, but it's going to cause a lot of problems. It can help you break bad habits, but it's much better if it's a sector in your house that you use when you need it, and then you leave it alone. And you can't do that with your main door. Open and live are the best, best main door sectors, Cheeman sectors, that is. But any of the other ones are also okay. Rest door is particularly good for family. And depending on your occupation, you may have a better door than even life or open. And this is discussed in the video talking about understanding your Cheeman chart. Now in this particular example, again, it's the landforms that would tell me what you to do. If you've got the 2 mountains, definitely the Period 8 house is better. No question about it. But you have to be before October 25th to be able to activate it this year. Now the reason why the Period 8 house is a lot better is because you don't have to do any external wall modifications or any internal wall modifications, and you don't have to add doors. It's just so much easier to accomplish. But you have to have those 2 mountains in the right location. Otherwise, it's not activated. And then if it's not activated, it's not such a good house. The 7-star robbery, in general, is considered to be slightly more powerful than the parent string, but it's so much more work that if you can do the parent string, Period 8, do that. It's only if you can't do it would you consider doing this, unless your house already has the right setup. And then you, if it happens to already have the right setup, you can actually do the Period 9, and then it would be just as good, and you've got a lot more time to make the change. Now what I'm going to talk about here is assuming if you cannot have any special formation activated because you basically don't have the right landforms. Then you basically are evaluating them on how well they may be Period 9 compliant. And this is the current house. Now the green is basically good for wealth, and these are really good home offices. And if you have 2 people who need home offices, this might make a lot of sense. And this would require no changes at all. But your main door really, or at least you should have an exterior door in this sector of your house. And preferably not to the garage, but it could work for the garage. The garage energy isn't as good, but if this truly goes outside, it's quite good. That will be okay. Now, I do have a lot more discussed on ways to make your house Period 9 compliant in that video, and you can watch that. The ones that are in this reddish orangish color, these are better for kitchen and bedroom. And the deciding whether or not you put your kitchen here or your bedroom here will depend on what is more important, health or relationships. If health is more important, this should be the location for your kitchen. If relationships are more important, this should be the location for your bedroom. And then the other one gets this. Now, this may not be having the sitting star supported, but a sitting star 8 is generally good. Period 9 is the weakest, but it's still not bad. And in the long term, this is good. So you could have the kitchen and bedrooms here. And these other rooms, of course, could be bedrooms. They could be various things. And if you've got kids, then you look at the video I have about bedrooms for everybody, because your children have different requirements than you do. And so this would be the owner's bedroom. One of these would be. So this is for a condition where you have a period 8 house. If you change it, the one thing I don't like about this is this 2-5 here in the center. That affects the entire house. And if you cannot activate this parent string, I would not change to period 8 because of this 2-5. But if you've already somehow done a period change to a period 8 house, or if your house is already period 8 because of when it was built, these two locations are your best home offices. This one's good because it has a facing star 4 and it's supported. Actually, both of these stars support the 4. And you've got the 1 and 4, so this is also good. Both of these are great home offices. And so this also accommodates 2 people who work from home. These two are the best kitchen and owner's bedroom locations. But again, if you cannot activate it, you still have this in the center. And I would try to avoid that. Now, if you already have a period 8 house that's like this and it's not activated, you might consider to change it to a period 9 house. Now this really only has one good home office, and that's because your 4 is located here. And these two are okay bedrooms and kitchen. And this would be where I put these two. This combo is much better than this combo in the center of the house. So if you already have a period 8 house, in general, I would say change it to a period 9. Your main door should be located here in the center of the front of your house. Usually that would be, because your house is actually kind of like this shape, it would be facing northeast. And that would be the best location because you've got the double stars. And so this is good for both health and for money. And even if you can't activate it, this isn't too bad. Period 1, it becomes a much less good house. But you've got 20 years of good luck, and that gives you time to find a better house. Hopefully one that you can actually have an activated special formation. So now I do have the 2 videos, period 9 compliant versus period 9 houses, and feng shui period 9 compliant houses. So these both talk about how to make your house compliant. And you can also look at other people's videos. You don't have to just watch mine, but this is now a fairly hot topic. So in general, if this period 9, if you change it to a period 9 house next year, if it's properly used, it's probably better than either of these if no activation is possible. If you can activate the period 8 house to be the activated parent string, it is a better house, but only if it can be activated. And so basically I've shown you why. Now, if you work hard, you can thrive anywhere. So you don't even have to worry about feng shui. You just have to work hard. But what good feng shui gives you is for the same amount of effort, you have an easier time at improving your your ability to move up in your job if you are an employee, or to, if you're an employer, your business gets better more easily. So that's what good feng shui gives you. You don't want to, but you don't have to have good feng shui. You can just work very hard. So you don't have to worry about your house's feng shui if there's nothing you can do about it. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me here if you have any questions, or visit my ad-free website. And if you subscribe, you can get regular monthly videos, or at least get notified when they come out. And you can also subscribe for the regular new videos that I do at least occasionally have out. Thank you again for watching.